In September 2016, Owen Blake stepped off a budget flight onto the tarmac of Naveira, a seaside town tucked into Portugal's southern cliffs. He was 27, quiet, and carried just a duffel bag. His friends teased him for packing light, but that's how he was: simple, precise, careful. The trip was meant to be a detox. 5 friends, a week by the beach, no work, no drama. The ocean wind was soft. The streets smelled of grilled sardines. The ruins nearby gave them somewhere to wander after sundown. For a few days, everything was perfect, until the 5th night. They were drinking at a tavern lit by rust-colored lanterns when Owen stepped out to make a phone call. 15 minutes passed, then 20. When he finally came back, his face was pale and tight. He wouldn't say what happened, only that a man had been watching him from across the street. Just standing there, he whispered. Didn't blink. Later that night, Owen complained of ear pain and dizziness. The next morning, a local doctor diagnosed a minor inner ear injury, possibly from sudden pressure or impact. He was advised not to fly for at least 5 days. Stay, his friends offered. We'll reschedule. But Owen shook his head. Go. I'll be fine. I'll take the next flight. That was September 18th. His friends left. Owen checked into Casa Luzia, a rundown hostel 5 kilometers from the airport. That was the last anyone saw of him for nearly 2 weeks. The receptionist remembered Owen clearly. He barely spoke. Always paid in cash. Slept with the lights on. The second night, he asked if the hostel had a back exit not visible from the street. When asked why, he just said, "Someone followed me." Owen called his sister back in Toronto 3 times. The first call was short. He sounded anxious but rational. In the second, he asked her to freeze his accounts. If anything happens, just lock it all down. The third call came at 3:14 a.m. His voice was a whisper. "What are the side effects of that antibiotic?" He asked. "My ears feel wrong. Everything's too loud." She asked if he was alone. "I think someone's in the hallway." Click. That morning, Owen walked to the airport. Security footage shows him entering around 10 a.m., dressed in the same gray hoodie from earlier photos. He moves quickly, head low, hugging the wall. At a kiosk, he checks his ticket. His flight isn't for another 2 hours. He walks to a bench, sits, stares. Then a shift. He jerks up, looks behind him. A man passes, and Owen flinches. He walks to the information desk, leans in, says something urgent. The staff member glances up. Owen's already backing away, got it 10:26 a.m. Owen runs. He sprints across the terminal, knocks over a sandwich display, barrels through an emergency door. Security alarms flash. He pushes through a fence gate and vanishes into the dry fields east of the airport. He left behind his phone, his bag, his ID. Everything. Search crews combed the area for 5 days. Helicopters circled. Dogs tracked his scent to a drainage canal, then lost it. Police found a torn hoodie snagged on wire, and boot prints that led to a dry ravine. And then nothing. The story exploded online. Armchair detectives built timelines. Conspiracy threads speculated about drug trafficking, government agents, or hallucinations. Some pointed out a construction project just a kilometer from where Owen vanished, one that had abruptly shut down 2 days earlier. No explanation was ever given. Time passed, and then came October 4th. A farmer checking a broken fence near the irrigation sheds outside Snow Pedra reported hearing noises, rustling, low grunts. In a shed filled with rotting canvas and rusted tools, they found Owen Blake. He was curled up under a faded blue tarp, barefoot, lips cracked, limbs shaking. His hair was matted with dirt. He weighed 40 pounds less than when he'd arrived in Portugal. One hand clutched a metal pipe like a weapon. His right wrist was swollen and discolored. Later confirmed fractured. Rescue workers said he didn't speak at first. Just stared out at the hospital. Doctors treated him for severe dehydration, malnutrition, and exposure. No drugs, no alcohol, no signs of a head injury. Just exhaustion and terror. When he finally spoke, his story made little sense. He claimed he had been followed through the fields, that a man or men had found him, that they didn't speak, just watched. He remembered climbing through dry culverts, hiding beneath bridges, and walking mostly at night. I could hear their boots, he said, but they never got close. He said they left food once, a water bottle placed near where he slept. Asked who they were, he said he never saw a face, just shapes. They didn't want me to leave, he told his sister. They just wanted me to forget. Therapists believe Owen experienced a paranoid break, possibly induced by trauma, dehydration, or stress compounded by his ear condition. But no one could fully explain the physical evidence, the wrist injury, the pipe he carried, the bruises on his back, or how he survived for 11 days in an area that had already been searched. Owen returned to Toronto a month later. He refused all press interviews. He didn't go back to work. He barely left his apartment. He installed 3 new locks on his door. A year later, he legally changed his name, but the questions never faded. Why did he run? Who, if anyone, was following him? Why didn't he call for help or approach anyone during those 11 days? And, perhaps most chilling of all, what scared Owen Blake so badly that he vanished into a field, alone, barefoot, and didn't want to come back? No one knows, and Owen isn't talking. Noah Ellis had a long-standing issue with night shifts. Even during his undergrad days, pulling all-nighters in the lab sent him into strange moods, edgy, distracted, as if the walls were pressing in. So when he signed up for a graduate field assignment to collect ecological samples deep in Azora Mountain Reserve, he made it clear, daylight hours only. But things changed when his research supervisor asked for one final round of soil and water samples before the freeze hit. A storm had delayed their original trip, and the only open window now meant hiking into the forest solo with just 2 days to collect everything. The area was safe, mapped, and patrolled. Still, Noah hesitated. It's not even an overnight. His supervisor said, "You'll be back by dinner." He agreed. What could go wrong? Friday, October 14th, 222. Noah parked at the main ranger station at 10:05 a.m. Checked in and triple-checked his gear. GPS tracker, backup power bank, compass, maps, food, medical kit. The sky was clear, air brisk but not cold. His route traced. A known trail called Cedar Loop, marked by faded blue blazes every 100 meters. He logged his starting coordinates, took his first sample near a mossy stream, and hiked on dot by 2 p.m. He was ahead of schedule. He'd collected 5 water and soil samples, all cataloged and bagged. He even recorded a few unexpected fern clusters near the ridge. The forest was silent, peaceful, almost too peaceful. Then, just past marker 42, he spotted it. A narrow, thin path veering sharply into dense brush. No trail marker. No man-made signs. Just a gap in the trees, lined with overgrowth and broken branches. It didn't appear on his map. He shouldn't have gone in, but he did. He stepped into the brush, brushing aside thin vines and ducking under low limbs. The air cooled almost immediately. The sounds around him faded, not in volume, but in presence. Like they were muffled, distant. He stopped to mark the first tree with a red chalk X. The trail continued. It wasn't just some random gap. It had curvature, faint signs of usage, as if animals or even people had walked it. At the 60-meter mark, the brush opened into a small clearing, completely surrounded by birch trees, tall, straight, white bark glinting faintly in the sun. In the center was a perfect ring of stones, each smooth and moss-covered, spaced evenly. No burn marks, no trash, not a campsite, not a ritual site either. Not unless someone was extraordinarily precise. It was quiet. Noah took a step into the ring. Nothing happened at first. He crouched, snapped a photo, jotted a few notes, and went. To check his phone's GPS. No signal. The bar spun, loading. Then flashed red, then black, then back to the lock screen. His compass app refused to open. He tried his real compass needle, spun, jittered, stopped pointing entirely. He stood still. The air felt heavier. He turned to leave. The trail was gone. Where he had entered just 5 minutes earlier was now a thicket of trees, so tight he couldn't have fit through them. He walked around the ring slowly, trying to find an opening, but no matter which direction he chose, it was blocked. Still calm, Noah circled the trees again. Nothing. No birds, no wind, no echo. Just the whisper of leaves rubbing against one. Another. He walked 50 meters in what he thought was west only to circle back to the stone ring. Twice. He wasn't panicking. Not yet. He used his chalk again, marking a birch with 2 slashes. Then another. He carved a small arrow into the bark. He tried following the markings forward, but ended up back at the ring again. Time moved strangely. The sunlight didn't fade. It stayed locked in that amber hour late afternoon, but never shifted. The shadows bent, but didn't stretch. He sat down, ate a protein bar, tried calling. No signal. Then the whispering started. Not voices, not words, just movement, leaves, twigs, the very ground underfoot. Not around him. Circling him. Noah stood. He didn't run. He just moved gently, back to the edge of the stone ring, and stood still. The moment he stepped out of the ring, the sound stopped. He waited, listened, then walked back in. Nothing. 2 more hours passed. He tracked it by his wristwatch. Then something changed the light. Not much, but enough. It dipped. A subtle dimming, like the sun had finally decided to set. He stood up again. The trail was back. It sat behind the ring, like it had never vanished. The same path, same gap in the brush. He didn't hesitate. He moved quickly, scratching arrows into every tree he passed. The air grew warmer. The birds returned. The hum of insects filled the silence dot. At 5:43 p.m., his GPS blinked to life. Cell service returned. Messages buzzed in. He reached the trailhead just as a ranger's at TV crested the bend. "Noah?" The ranger called. "Yeah," he said, raising a hand. "I got turned around for a bit." Everyone was getting worried. "You missed your 3 p.m. check-in." Noah apologized, explaining he'd lost his signal and taken a detour. "No lies, just the light version of the truth." They walked him back to the station. He was hydrated, unharmed, and calm. The medical team checked him over. Not a scratch, no fever, no signs of stress beyond mild disorientation. He didn't mention the stone circle, or the whispers, or how the forest had held him for exactly as long as it wanted, and then let him go. Noah submitted his report, completed his samples, and received full credit. He still hikes. He still works in the field. But he doesn't follow unmarked trails anymore. Doesn't step into circles he didn't make. And never again doubts his instincts about the forest. Whatever held him that day hadn't meant harm, but it had been watching. And somehow, it had chosen to let him walk free.